Hey everyone, Erik here, and today my channel is finally going to be coming full circle as I'm going to be reviewing The Power of the Daleks animated reconstruction. And, the story itself, of course. The plot sees the newly regenerated Doctor, along with Ben and Polly, on a human colony on the planet Vulcan. In the laboratory of the colony, a scientist by the name of Lesterson has had a vessel brought in containing what he thinks are merely servant creatures, only too eager to serve all the humans' needs. But the Doctor knows that this is far from the case, as those servants are none other than the Daleks. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is probably one of the best, if not the best, Dalek story out there. In this, the Daleks aren't just ruthless killing machines. They're cunning, scheming creatures working behind the humans' backs to build up their force while maintaining a facade of benevolence before striking when the humans are at their weakest. And when they strike, then and only then is it an indiscriminate massacre of everyone in sight. But, of course, before any of that can happen, we have to have a good bit of trademark 62 foreshadowing and atmosphere. What am I on about, you ask? Well, the end of episode 1, where the Doctor opens up the Dalek ship to reveal the two dormant Daleks, is just brilliant. It's so creepy, and I legitimately jumped when the one Dalek's plunger fell, and again when the Dalek mutants scuttled under the door. The dramatic irony/foreshadowing is especially strong when Lesterson brings in one of the Daleks to life and shows it to the governor of the colony. He's over there talking about how this will benefit the colony greatly, but anyone who's seen a Dalek story, or lived through one in the Doctor's case, already knows how this is going to go. Speaking of the man in black and white, the Doctor is really detached in the first episode, and part of the second, which really makes the audience question if he actually is the Doctor. For me, two particular moments that stood out in that regard are when he doesn't seem to really react to the Earth Inspector being shot down in front of him, and when he decides at some point he's not going to take his recorder out of his mouth when answering Polly's questions. More of the Doctor's erratic behavior is seen here when he's being deadly serious to someone, probably about Lesterson's Daleks, when, all of a sudden, fruit! Out of all the regeneration stories, I think this is the most interesting way it's ever been done. Here, there's an element of ambiguity and mystery as to what's happened to the Doctor, since the person who's taken his place is not only nothing like the original, but also has moments of acting like he isn't the Doctor. Jumping from one scientist to another, Lesterson goes through quite a nice progression in episode 4. Yes, quite the natural progression. It starts with just a speck of doubt about what he's done in reviving the Daleks, and eventually escalates to clearly being completely regretful at the end. Regretful from what exactly? Glad you asked. The ending to episode 4, where Lesterson discovers the Dalek factory, is brilliant. Seeing the full process of a Dalek being born, then seeing a full, massive room of them shouting their new dawn chant just reeks of pure Dalekness, and shows the audience, and Lesterson, just how screwed the colony is. While I'm on the topic of the colony being screwed from the get-go, I quite enjoyed the three-sided power struggle between retaining the current order in the colony, the rebels aligning themselves with the Daleks, and the Daleks conspiring against both groups while faking their alliance to the rebel cause, while also faking their servanthood to the colony. Though, of course, once the leader of the rebels takes over, it then becomes a four-sided power struggle, as he doesn't want resistance to his own regime. The soundtrack to the story goes perfectly with it. It's fairly simple, and in fact a lot of the music is taken from earlier Dalek stories, but it still adds to the dramatic, uneasy atmosphere that hangs over the whole thing wonderfully. Finally, my channel wouldn't truly be going state of decay, full circle, if I didn't talk about the reason I saw the story in the first place. The animation. Well, it's alright. It's certainly not on the level of the Moonbase animation I talked about back in November, but it does the job of making this lost story visually available again. Because only telesnaps of the story exist now, the animation team had a limited number of pictures of each character to go off of, and so they made what I can only really call sprites for each character, like those in older video games. And in fact, the whole animation is kinda like those sprite animation videos on YouTube, with the exception that those videos don't have moments of the characters just standing there with blank expressions on their faces when they're clearly supposed to be emoting. Somehow. Look, what I'm getting at is, they did a good job with what they had to work with, and to reconstruct an entire 6-part story is not an easy task, that I can appreciate. But perhaps if they'd taken longer to work on it and to smoothen out the edges, it would have been much better. In conclusion, Power of the Daleks is a masterpiece of a post-regeneration story, a Dalek story, and just as a Doctor Who story in general. I give it 9.5 stovepipe hats out of 10.